All right, I'm going to call this committee of the whole meeting to order. We have all council members present, and our first matter of business is the approval of minutes for July 7th, 2026. Do I have any corrections, additions, changes? No, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the committee of the whole for July 7th, 2026.
I'll second.
I got a motion from Councilmember Turner and a second from Councilmember Pickett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay. Okay, first discussion item is, so that was a 5-0 vote. First discussion item is discuss the Murray City 2026 Storm Drainage Master Plan update with Travis Neely, Josh Hill, Jason Schertz with Hanson, Allen, and Luce presenting. You got 25 minutes.
So hurry up.
I'm gonna leave you guys in good hands.
How are you?
Travis Neely, Senior Engineer, Murray City Public Works. And Casey Schertz, he's with Hanson, Allen, Luce. These two gentlemen have pretty much devised this entire master plan. He's kind of the author of it, so I'll let these two do their presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you, Josh. So I'm Mayor Hills and members of the council. I'm Travis Neely, Engineering Department. Hanson, Allen, Luce and I, we've been working alongside with the rest of the Public Works crew to go through iterations to come up with this updated stormwater master plan. This is a update to the plan that was presented in 2019 to the council. And so I felt it would be appropriate to kind of actually report back on the 2019 plan that Trey Stokes presented. And so I've prepared a few slides here highlighting 7 projects that were done from the last plan. And then I'll turn time over to Jason to talk about this updated plan. These are the 7 projects that I'll talk about. Make sure, okay, you guys have something to see. So these 7 projects, I don't have time to really jump into the details of these projects, so it's mostly just gonna be some pictures, but generally speaking, all of these projects were areas where our crews have seen issues in the past, and the math that Hanson, Allen, Luce did showed that the existing systems were undersized. First, and we're gonna go chronological order. First area was Walden Meadows Drive in the Walden Hills subdivision. You see that picture on the right, gives you an idea of the scale of that project. This is before my time. But what we did is we connected into the existing storm drain system near Walden Meadows Drive, ran pipe down 5400 South into Walden Park and then into the Jordan River ultimately. Next project is Vine Street. This was done in 2 phases. It was almost a mile long of pipe that was installed. Phase 1 was in 2019. Phase 2 was 2021. Most of us probably remember when we widened Vine Street in this area. This was done in conjunction with that. It was an expensive project, but fortunately, the engineering department applied for grants and was almost purely funded by federal dollars through grant writing.
Awesome. That's great.
Next project this is the first project that I actually did when I got to Murray City. It was a fun project. I actually worked alongside with Josh Hill. We collaborated together and our own stormwater crews installed this. This is in Anderson Avenue in the Auburn Gardens subdivision area. Next project I feel is an important one. This is Clover Meadow in the Majestic Village subdivision area. Clover Meadow was experiencing repeated flooding during larger storms, but not only that, probably some of you know, there were some houses there that have some reverse grade driveways. So if you pull in, you go downhill towards the garage, and water likes to do the same thing. So there were some houses that were getting flooded there, and so we put those homeowners at ease with this project.
Yes, you did.
Next area is 5750 South in the Utana subdivision. Our own stormwater crews installed this one as well, and then our own streets department rebuilt the road and the curb and gutter and put in some new sidewalk and pretty much gave the neighborhood a new facelift and made it function better. So
That was great. It was so needed. Oh my word, those people just were constantly getting in.
I was impressed both with our stormwater crew and our streets crew. That was the most rebuild I've seen them do. I was like, you're going to do all this before the fall is over, and they made it happen. So. And then the next area is Cherry Street and our Public Works building. We've experienced over the years repeated flooding behind Lowe's at the storage units that were there, as well as in Fifth West, right in front of the old Public Works building. And so just recently we installed a detention pond behind Lowe's. That's that middle picture. And we're about to start constructing a detention pond in the Public Works campus area. And those two ponds will work together to mitigate the flooding that we experienced there.
Can we get Jeff to stock the traps?
I'm pushing for that myself.
Gone fishing.
Gone fishing. Last project I want to present is the 900 East Storm Drain Project. It's actually happening as we speak. We're connecting storm drain pipe into McRiley Golf Course, going down Wood Oak Lane, and then down 900 East, connecting into 5600 South and 5700 South. This project is going to enable us to do a future project, which we'll actually talk about in the updated master plan. It's going to allow us to put in a storm drain system down 5600 South, get rid of that concrete line ditch that runs along 5600 South. It'll allow us to widen the road, put in bike lanes, put in sidewalk, as well as address flooding issues in the Highland Lake area, and also that storage unit on Wood Oak Lane. They experienced flooding. We're gonna help them out there.
Did you say McRiley Golf Course is
Yes.
in that? Is the county helping pay for that or no?
No, but we've been working with them just to get permission to make changes on their property. So those are the kind of the report back on what we've done with the last plan, and kind of can keep that in mind as I'm going to turn the time over to Kason. Imagine us coming back in 5 years reporting back on the plan that we're presenting now. So I'll turn the time
Awesome,
over to Kason.
thank you. This is great to see. This doesn't always happen in every city that we work with, to see that kind of progress being made over the course of 5 years. So I think your public works crew, your engineering staff is doing a great job. There's the only constant in life is change. There's always changes going on, whether it's what was gonna be put here or maybe there's redevelopment. And so it's a good idea to look at these things every once in a while, the storm drain master plan, to go, okay, well, those assumptions that we were using to get to where we got, those have changed a little bit. And so how does that impact us? And so the best practice is to kind of look at this every 5 to 10 years-ish and make those adjustments as needed. Unlike your wastewater and your culinary water, it's just unpredictable. Stormwater, where the storm hits versus how intense it is versus maybe different roads have been put in and drainage patterns can change and shift. And so it's just a good idea to look at these things. So our purpose when we come in is this is an inexact science. Let me just be out there and say that. When you're doing hydrology work where you're trying to estimate how much runoff you're going to get, it's a very inexact science. But we use the best tools available. They're getting better and better all the time. We're seeing maybe increased intensities in rainfall storms as we move into the future. And so we use modeling and best engineering practices to estimate these things. And then we go in and we see your GIS system, what sort of pipes do you have? What sort of, we call it a conveyance. And that's a pipe, that's a ditch, that's a canal, anything that can transfer water from point A to point B. And so we look at those things. We have engineering calculations to say, can this pipe take this much water that's coming to it, essentially? And when it can't, that's when we see the flooding. That's when we see the ponds and the roads and stuff like that. And so even though it's inexact, it still helps us because now we have a sense for when we're going to fix it, what are we what are we trying to accomplish? You know, I might say, well, I've got this 18-inch pipe. How big does it actually need to be? And so our modeling helps us to estimate what that might need to be. And then we can, with our modeling, we can also look at alternatives. We can say, well, I could either put in a detention pond like you did at Lowe's, or I can make the pipe bigger. And so we evaluate those alternatives to see what's the best cost bang for your buck to basically mitigate the problem. And then we come up with this plan, says this is how much it's going to cost, so you can start planning and budgeting for those things. In storm drainage, this is very common where we have like an initial system, and that, think about the storm drain pipes that are underneath the road. Those are supposed to take care of things that are up to what we call a 10-year event. And what that means is an event that has a 10% chance of happening on any given year. And so those pipes are supposed to be able to take all the water off the road, basically. But then when you have a bigger event, you've probably heard of a 100-year event. What that means is that there's a 1% chance on any given year of that big of an event of occurring. And so basically standard thought process is, well, the streets can take that extra water. But you have to be a little bit careful because sometimes the streets do take it to somewhere and then there's nowhere else for it to go. And that's where you can kind of get some flooding. And so we try to look at all those things. Can the streets take it, and where are they going to take it to? Can they get it to Little Cottonwood Creek? Can they get it to a safe conveyance? So here's our study area. So the blue, these are all the areas that we looked at. Stormwater doesn't know political boundaries, right? So you do accept some stormwater from other cities. We try to estimate those things that are coming into you. And then we have, we tend to try to work with other cities to have agreements of like maintenance agreements and things like that if we're accepting their stormwater. So here's our model. We basically split up your city into a bunch of small pieces. We call these subbasins. And the definition of a subbasin would just be if I dropped a drop of water in a certain spot, all of that area that's kind of highlighted would eventually get to the same place. It all drains to the same place. And so you get these areas where there's a lot of it coming to the same place, and that's where you need bigger and bigger pipes. And so all cities like this are kind of split up based on the topography and where the pipes are at. And so this is a map of how we do our calculations. And then the red subbasins are ones that we updated as part of this update based on different changes that have happened since the last plan. And then we look at your GIS database that you've got, and you can see there on that map, the thicker lines represent larger diameter pipes. Okay, so that means that there's lots of drainage area coming to those, and you need a bigger pipe to be able to take care of all of that water. And so we pair those two things together. We take those estimated flows from those subbasins, and then we put it into these pipes, and then we use some engineering calculations to say, can the pipe take all of this water, yes or no? And if it can't, that we flag that as what we would call a deficiency. We would expect there to be ponded water and potential flooding in those locations if the calculations say the pipe can't take it. And so this map right here kind of shows all those different locations where that happened, where our calculations show that these particular pipes that are purple couldn't take the amount of water that we estimated might come to them. Now, again, I want to note that our calculations are not perfect. It's an inexact science. We're doing the best that we can. And so some of these, like Travis had mentioned, we want to coordinate with your crews and say, hey, this is what the model's showing. Do you see it too? If those two things are both true, then we have a good match, right? Those are the ones that we want to prioritize because we know that we've had problems there. And then our model can help with the sizing of how big does that actually need to be to work. And so once we pair those things together, that's how we come up with our capital facility plan, our capital improvement plan, and say, hey, you have an 18-inch in the road, but it actually needs to be a 30 or whatever the case may be. That's kind of how we lay this out. And we look at how many feet of 30-inch pipe do we have? How much does it typically cost? And then we can come up with estimates for all these different projects and what the totals are and all that kind of stuff. and this slide kind of just reiterates, we wanted to make sure that the improvements that we're suggesting are ones that really need to be done. And so we coordinated with your staff on that so that we could identify real projects and prioritize the ones that were most needed now. And then as we're looking into the future, if there's a project that's kind of on the back burner, your crews can kind of be watching those areas and see like, hey, is there actually flooding in this area? Yes or no? And then when we go back, they can say, you know, whatever number it is, PE 5, you know, we really haven't seen flooding there in the last 5-6 years. And so maybe it kind of continues to fall down the list in priority until you can determine if it's a real deficiency or not. And so once we come up with what we think those projects are, we use different methods to come up with our cost estimates. There's different catalogs out there that have cost estimates. There's previous master plans have been done, and you can kind of increase the cost based on inflation. We have recent bids that we'll look at to try to refine all that. So we take all those bits of information and we try to come up with what do we think these things are going to cost to construct. And then this is kind of how we've laid it out for the future. So we have 3 different priorities. We have A, B, and C. And basically A is in the next 5 years, here's where we're going to focus on. Those projects that you saw before, the 7, was that right? 7 projects. That's what we're going to focus on in 0 to 5 years. And then we have like an intermediate 5 to 10, and then the ones 10 year beyond. Those are ones that are lower priority. Maybe we're not even sure that they're deficiencies, but based on our criteria that we've set, they are technically a deficiency until proven otherwise. And so let's look at them. Let's see what happens. And I don't know if I went too fast on that, but we have a grand total here of $71 million for all those projects. Next 5 years, $3.1 million. And here is a summary of those priority A projects. So these are the projects. So there's 5 projects on here. And here's our cost estimates for those projects. And so just to note, and Travis mentioned these earlier, the 5600 South and the 6400 South are both projects that the city went out competitively seeking grant money and were able to secure that. And so these guys are doing a great job for you in getting grant money. And that's awesome. Yeah. And so that helps. And especially being able to, and I think, and you could speak to this, Travis, but like, I think a big key to that is finding the win-win situations where you can say, well, we need to fix the street and we've got this canal on the side and we want to pipe it, and just being able to identify those things and say, here's a complete project that we can present to you. Can we get some money for this? And they've been successful in doing that. And so that's basically it. I don't know if you have any questions.
On the existing storm drainage system, what you've got here, and it says Jordan and Salt Lake City Canal. At the end of it, you said the storm drain, or the canal cannot be used as an outlet for future storm drain projects. And I'm wondering why. What is the reason?
So that is a canal company decision, and because of different liabilities that are associated with that, canal companies are starting to turn towards that. In fact, I've done some work for another city where we kind of had a verbal, like, they had some bigger rainfall events that flooded someone repeatedly, and so we wanted to kind of increase the inlet capacity and put another pipe into the canal. And they said, yeah, we had done some modeling that showed it probably worked. But at the end of the day, the board rejected it, even after we went through a full design process, because they said, we are not going to accept any more stormwater whatsoever, because the liability goes on to the canal company if somebody floods, and they don't want to take that on anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If I might add to that, sorry.
Yeah, please.
So when we did Vine Street Storm Drain Project, Salt Lake City Canal, Jordan Salt Lake Canal, they actually had us remove 2 CFS cubic feet per second of water from their canal. into our storm drain system. So we actually ended up modeling that Vine Street line to carry that water. Because, and as Josh may know, Lombardi would flood from the canal up on heavy rain events. They would want us to move water. So they're trying to go the other direction as well.
The canal waters are designed to transfer water to the end user. I mean, back in the day, everything here was agriculture, right? And so that's how they flood irrigated all their farms, lands. So their CFS, their flow rate is independent of storm events. So they are running the water they needed and need for all these parcels to get their water to irrigate their crops. So they're running at max capacity to get the amount of water they need for all their users. And then a storm event happens and we overload the system by adding more water. There's not enough time to react without a flood. So
It just seems like it would make sense to.
Well, when we annexed almost the entire footprint of the annexed area, northern or the eastern side of Murray,
Right,
that was their conveyance system. Everything went to third-party irrigation systems. So the Vine Street, Upper 64th, all these, the majority of our big CIP projects are the separation from a third-party irrigation system into our own storm sewer system.
There are a ton of communities dealing with the same issue right now where they are separating and having to spend quite a bit of money to separate themselves from the irrigation companies due to some of these maintenance issues and liability, et cetera.
They've never liked us. The Tanners, remember?
Right.
When we saw that back in the day.
yeah, I know. Huh, interesting.
So the 35 projects, 33 are east of I-15. Is the west in really good shape? Is that what it is?
That is part of it. Like Josh talked about, a lot of what we're doing is separating. We annexed the east side, and we've been just continuing to discover what we inherited.
The treasures we found underground, right?
There's actually a story there where during this project we actually delayed presenting this to you because one of these projects is to install a storm drain system down Van Winkle. And Kason just happened to know about an existing pipe that's already there, that's giant, I think it's 72 inches, that Salt Lake County installed years ago with the intention to serve that east side. And we weren't even really that aware about it, just kind of heard about it. And so we put a pause on this research and did a side project where we researched that pipe and also worked with our neighbors, Mill Creek and Holiday, and UDOT, just talking about, can we put more water? We got permission to connect into that system, which will, in the long run, save us millions of dollars when we get to that project.
And I think it's important to note, as Travis did at the beginning of the presentation too, sorry Trav, 54 Inner South, we put in 2 lines there. We addressed both Walden and Clover Meadow area. Josh, when I first met Josh, really in earnest, it was when he was putting in the Daisy Lane storm drain. We've done a lot of storm drainage on addressing some of those.
So you fixed us first.
Yes.
That's the way to say it, right?
That west side got
You just say,
all the addressing on the last master plan.
we'll accept that.
Anderson.
I think 6 of that first 7 were all West Side projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I would say coming
Next
to
we
this.
focus on the top of Murray.
But yeah, coming to Murray City, I've been impressed with our mapping of the existing system, our institutional knowledge, our stormwater crews know. I mean, Russ, Josh, Sam, these gentlemen have been working with our systems for years and have it mapped in their head. And so we know the system, we know where the issues are. And when there is a big storm, our crews know where to go to make sure that it's functioning. And these next projects that we want to do over the next 5 years will help us because we won't have to run to those spots and sweat it out.
Travis is being nice, Russ doesn't really know, but Russ is watching this on. Whatever, Russ, I Russ.
From above.
Any other questions?
When you look at the pipes that are too small, is that because the water flow changed over the years, or we just didn't know because we didn't have the technology to know to put in a bigger pipe?
or sometimes with bigger pipes not available. I guess I'm just kind of trying to figure out
Mhm.
or just understand why when we originally put in the pipe,
Mhm.
or did we put in the same size everywhere and how we're
Can I let you answer first?
Yeah. I would say you see that all the time. I do a lot of stormwater master plans, and this is not uncommon, especially when a city starts getting towards what we'd call build out. You're mostly developed.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot more of impervious surface, parking lots, driveways, sidewalks. And sometimes the original vision of what it was supposed to be is different. And so if I'm putting in a pipe that's right here and I've got drainage area up here and I assumed it was going to be farmland, well, when it all develops, we're just going to tie into it because that's where it wants to go. But that's where the plans kind of changed, right? I thought the assumptions changed. So there's that. There's better technology now. And sometimes in cities, way back when, if some of these pipes are 50, 60 years old, they just put in what they had.
that's what they had on
Just-
hand.
Yeah.
And piggyback on, yeah, especially on the east side, with, like Josh said, they just connected into existing irrigation systems. And sometimes you look at them like, why are we getting smaller pipe? We should be getting larger as we're going downstream. And I assume there was kind of a Wild West period of just.
They didn't have a master plan.
Yeah,
just
And,
it's connected right
and
there.
watching the city develop over the last 4 years, such as the McRiley location, that was just a big parking lot with a building, and now we've put in townhomes and we haven't put in a detention facility. And so as developments have been coming through, we've been improving the situation as well. If you just have a giant parking lot, it's like you just have a big bowl catching all the rainwater and just shoving it down the drain. And so now we have a system where it's going from the rooftop, it's going through the gutters, it's running down the driveway, connects into the system, and then it also goes to a detention facility and kind of stores for a moment until we're ready to take it downstream. So we are putting some of the ownership on improving things to the developers as well.
Seems like we have a lot of deficiencies. I'm a little concerned about that. I mean,
It's like Kason said, I honestly feel really good about where we're at. These, if you talk, some of these systems I'm not as familiar with, but if you talk to Josh, the ones that we're going to do over the next 4 years, they're known areas where we need to address some problems. But we know where the issues are. We just addressed a bunch of good issues over the last 5 years, and I feel like we're going to be sitting in a pretty good position after these next 5 years, because these next projects after that are areas that the model says there's something wrong, but they're making assumptions on what the pipe slope is, and they're making some assumptions there, and coming up with a general idea of what the solution is. But when we get to the point where we're like, okay, we want to address this issue, then we go into much deeper engineering where we actually get real good data, where we know what our slopes are, and we can really determine if we need to do those projects. So not all of these projects that are on this list are ones that we may want to ever do.
so you're feeling okay about it?
Yeah.
I guess I want to feel okay about it. It's
Yeah, well,
just,
If you want to know a compare, like this is pretty this is pretty normal
is it?
for a city your size. Pretty normal.
Just tell us we're a little bit.
I would even say that, to be quite frank with you, like.
Yeah, you said at the beginning that.
I would say, based on the age of your and I would say it's probably a little bit better than some that I've seen.
Alright.
I've done CIPs that are more than 100 million.
It just looks like a lot, so I'm glad you I'm glad you know what you're doing, and so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, and I'll just
Thank
add, I'm happy to see 6400 south on that list. That'd be good. So, alright, our next item is to discuss an ordinance related to new land uses and classification requests. Chad Wilkinson presenting.
Hello, council.
Hello.
Good job.
This is one of those, thank you, state legislature text amendments. And we talked about this a little bit when we talked about an application we had. It's been a couple months now. We remember the veterinary dentistry application we had where we had a business owner that wanted to classify a new use. They knew we had this state law that had been adopted. They said we'd like to use that state law to review this. We agreed with them that it was an appropriate way to look at that. So we did. And we, knowing that we still needed to adopt a formal process in our own code, state law requires that we adopt this process. That's why we're here tonight. So the process is fairly similar to what we already went through with that other, we followed state code and we reviewed that other use request. But we've made a few tweaks that are meaningful to us to clarify what the role is before we get to the council. So again, the idea behind this is that now we already had a process in place in our code, but we assumed that some other cities didn't have this process. We had a process in place already that said, hey, if there's a use that doesn't fit neatly into these categories, someone can request an interpretation. It was already in the code. The state took it a step further and said, you are required, city, if you find that there is a use that's not in your code, to take that to the city council, bypass our usual process of going through the planning commission, take that directly to the city council and let them make a determination on whether that's a new or unclassified use. So that's what this does. It provides that process, and it also provides for the ability for a person to appeal that determination. That was already in our code too, but this clarifies what happens in the case of an appeal. So again, this is, I think the state probably saw a need because of emerging technologies, other reasons like uses that weren't anticipated a long time ago in codes. Perhaps a city, I will say some cities are very, very broad in their definition of uses. And so in some cases, it may be, our code is very specific. We have the other approach. So in some cases, it may be that it's so broad that the city doesn't feel like they want to classify it in that broad category. So applicants are saying, well, give us something. Give us some category where we can put this use then. You can see up there on the screen, this is for uses that don't clearly align with uses that are already in our code, and also where we can't find that reasonable similar use category in our code. Here's a couple things it doesn't do though. This is not for prohibited uses. We have uses in our code that are specifically prohibited. This is not an end around for someone that wants to say, well, I want to do a different process because I don't like that that's prohibited. That type of use would still have to go through the planning commission, the city council for a formal text amendment. It's also not a substitute for an administrative action. So again, that process that's in place for a text amendment still has to be followed unless we find out this is a novel use, something that's not in our code. What it does do is give us the ability to use the interpretation for similar uses as our primary tool. We actually don't want this to come up to the council very often because the process of your citizen planners, your planning commission, making recommendations to you is important. It's so important that it's in state code. This is how important this is. So we don't want to take away that use. So we've tried to, or that process, so we've tried to make this as narrow as we can in this application. So here's how it works. The applicant submits a classification request. It says director's interpretation. That'll be community development staff. If it aligns with a similar use, if we can find a use that is pretty much the same, we say, hey, this is what you are. You're similar enough that you're going to go through a permitted or conditional use. If it truly is an unlisted use, new use, for example, veterinary dentistry, different enough from a vet clinic that we said that is really a new use, that would then come to the city council. Again, that process outlined in state code bypasses the planning commission, goes directly to you for your review and approval. You just did one. That's that same process. So again, our findings are that this is our way to align with state requirements. We made these changes to align with state code. They're supported and support the general plan by making sure that we still have good processes in place while still being responsive to legislative changes. And then we're again establishing this transparent, efficient process for these new and unlisted uses. So with that, planning commission, funny enough, the planning commission has to make a recommendation on this code amendment, even though they're going to be taken out of that review process. So they did review it, and they have recommended, with the caveat that they're not super happy that they got taken out of this process, but they are recommending approval to the state code. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Is this required by the state?
It is required by the state to
So
create this process, yeah.
So if we
what's our
said
vote
no.
mean then?
Yeah,
We have some things, your vote means that you are adopting the process that's required by state code. So we have to.
So we have to say yes.
City council has to adopt this process. We do have some things that are specific to our code in terms of a lot of code, I guess what they gave some discretion on is cities can choose how the first process works, how the director looks at these uses, what types of resources we would use to make that interpretation. I think it's more important, again, for cities that maybe have those broad land use categories. Our standard land use code, if you've seen it, I hope you've all seen it, has specific numbers, right, that correspond to a use. And we have hundreds, maybe thousands of specific uses that are outlined in our code. So for someone that's more broad in that approach and open to more interpretation on those uses, having that process for the administrative review is very important. For us, it's still important. We have that process outlined to give an appeal process for an applicant that doesn't like the interpretation, but maybe less important than those cities with those broad categories.
I really liked Commissioner Pearson's comment.
Remind me what he said.
And
I was there.
he said, entered a dissenting comment. He expressed clear disagreement with the state requirement. He believes the planning commission is being removed from the process at precisely the moment when their input matters most, when a use is generally new and has never been evaluated before. He said he understands the need for efficiency, but believes that can be achieved without removing the planning commission from that process. And I happen to believe what he is saying. It's kind of like we're doing what we are doing, but the other cities are not. And so us, Murray, is being reprimanded because the other cities are not following the rules. So
Yep.
Murray always gets reprimanded with the other cities that are doing it, and the other cities are not. And Commissioner
These are
Pearson
tough.
was-
The state mandates are tough.
Yep.
They're one size misfits all, right? We talked about that. So.
And I'm spelling a data center. It's like, oh, you don't have a data center listed. Let's leave it on the CD to decide,
I'm so glad you brought that up because I've looked at our code and I think we have a code that would already fit under.
We might, but there may be some
Others might
cities who
not.
don't, and
Yeah.
so that
We're
instead of
looking at
having to work through a planning commission, now we have one person to convince to put in that data center.
Do we know what problem came up that they were trying to solve? Like why
I don't.
there had to be a
I'm
reason?
gonna push on that. Again, let me get this wrong. Using Councilmember Pickett's analogy or example of a data center, that's not in code, so that would still, through this process, have to come to us at the end of the day.
Either way, it has to come to the council.
Yeah.
Now, I think we've got a use that,
Unless the CD can make a case that it kind of fits into what we already have. It's similar to,
I think we do have that.
they sell computers on the street, therefore you can build a data center.
No, but yes, yeah. No, it looks like the use that's most similar in our current standard land use code would be only allowed in our industrial zone. So for a data center, we don't have any. No one's approached us about data centers. We don't have any anticipated. Our properties are really too small for data centers for the most part, the ones that are available. So we don't. That's not to say they couldn't come up with new technology that brings it in, but we'll have some more conversation. We're working on a potential clarification ordinance for you to review in the coming weeks.
because we do have that industrial area that you presented 2 weeks ago, that they could put one there.
The few data centers that have contacted us just for initial data center developers, I should say, when they've looked at our properties, say they're just really not the right size, even those bigger. Because when we say bigger in the terms of Murray's properties, we're talking, 10 acres when they're looking for, well, you'd see
Yes.
thousands of acres, right, for some of these projects. So we just, the technology may change, the data centers may get smaller, and they may come back to us. But right now, we don't have any pending that we know of.
What happens if we don't?
We got 1 minute.
Is there a consequence?
If we don't approve this law,
Yeah.
Yeah, what do they do?
it's state code, so
Yeah.
we're at your city attorney.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it has any teeth. I don't know.
GL's going, no, we just say yes.
We have to approve it, but then we can pass a code regarding.
Yeah, you can still do something about whatever use.
It just creates another layer.
If you have a use they're concerned about, which we've already anticipated that, we're gonna come with some discussion about, some clarification for data centers. But it's still the process. You can still pass laws that it's for unclassified, unlisted uses. I don't think that's the case in this case, but, and that's where I would start with.
I think this is just the beginning.
I will say this though, I have seen cities that really don't have a good process for these unlisted uses, and that can be frustrating. Let's say it's something a little more benign, like someone comes in and says, well, I wanna have a drive-through coffee shop, and some cities says, well, we don't have that in our code, so you're out of luck, you can't do it, and you gotta go through a text amendment process, and they say, well, it's just not in your code, but can't you allow this to happen? And I have seen processes where people get stuck into a big, long, drawn-out process when it's fairly simple, so I think that could be the reason the state did this, I don't know.
Thanks, guys. All right, we're going to move on to number 3, which is discuss the fraud risk assessment from Brenda Moore. You got 5 minutes, Brenda.
Probably not gonna take that long. We'll bring a slide. Did you? I'll do one. I gave you a smiley face. So I have to discuss with you every year. Nothing has changed from the last time we were here. We still have all of our internal controls in place. 2 people sign checks, 2 people sign off on all things. I look at any check that's coming through, any invoice that's coming through that's over $100,000 before it can go out. There are all kinds of things in place to make sure that money is flowing correctly, and we got internal controls. And then we have all of the policies that they suggest we have. Because I am a CPA and Emily's got her CPFO. We have 2 people that qualify in that one, and we all do continuing education. Mindy, our treasurer, does continuing education. She's got certificates, and our AP clerk does continuing education. She's got AP stuff. So we are all trying to stay up on our things. The one thing I would request is if you have not gotten on the state auditor's website and done the little training on what your responsibilities are. It's very entertaining, takes about 5 to 10 minutes. I need it done before you finish your first term. So please, Jennifer has the information, or I can get it to you to go watch that. It's not that hard. And then just make sure you sign I think once a year Jennifer talks to you about ethics, and make sure you don't have any conflicts of interest. I do the same thing with my staff and with the department heads so that they know what our ethics code is. Once a year I make them send me back an email that says they will abide by it. So we are in the, I call it very low risk. They say low risk, but we're right there. The only things we don't do is have an internal audit function, which would just cost us more money, not really provide anything. And our budget committee is really not a formal audit committee, so I don't count that. But we got everything else. And I think everything's running well. Our internal controls are good. We did catch something today or yesterday, I'm not sure what day. Somebody interrupted a change of bank form for one of our vendors. So they wanted to go to EFT. So what do? Mindy calls an existing number for the company, and they say, what? We're not doing that. We don't accept EFTs. So somebody had gotten in the chain, and so we stopped it. We're going to send them a check. It's the second time that's
That's the
happened.
second time that happened. I know cities are.
Like, have you seen our broad risk assessment?
So we do have procedures and, and that's why we ask employees not to send me an email because it's usually always fake about changing their EFT information for their paychecks. So, that's our broad risk assessment. Any questions?
Are there other cities that have an audit committee?
Probably the great big ones. I'm betting that Salt Lake City does.
Sandy probably.
Like a citizen committee, like a boards and commission kind of thing?
Well, it's the formal audit committee, some of them have like a citizen on them. Usually a citizen is an accountant. An internal audit function, what that means is they have extra accountants that just go look at things
Oh,
within the city. So, and we talked about, the state has talked about, well, Murray could audit West Jordan and West Jordan could, and nobody has time. We don't have the personnel or the to go worry about what other cities are doing.
an audit committee would be mostly internal people anyway.
Yeah. So, and the auditor just brings the things to everybody in the council. So, that's it, okay? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, our last discussion item is discuss ordinances related to midterm vacancies and changes to the Murray City Council policies and procedures handbook related to vacancy and an elected office. G.L. Critchfield, you have 10 minutes.
Thanks. State law changed. We need to update our code and our council rules. It affects the council and a midterm vacancy and the mayor. And so basically, in a nutshell, if there's a midterm vacancy in the mayor's office, the change here is it used to be that the council chair automatically became the acting mayor until one was chosen within 30 days. This says, I don't know why, that the council has to choose an acting mayor and then within 30 days, choose another.
Seems so silly.
See, Adam had this opportunity and he's not gonna get it now.
He's still available. Still available. That's 20% chance.
So then,
I'm not dying.
so then in 30 days you choose another temporary
I thought
person?
about it a few times.
Okay, so you put in a temporary person and then put in an interim person until the next time there's a municipal election.
Yes,
Interesting.
essentially.
I know, it really.
Okay. Somebody's like, I'll wait for 30 days and then.
It
Well,
talks
it's just-
about 2 years. What happens if there's 3 years? I mean,
So you could
confused
actually be
about
elected
that.
at the, instead of your normal, what our code says now is you fill the unexpired term. You may not be filling the whole unexpired term if the vacancy happens early on. You have to go to election before the
Okay, that's,
actual
that's.
normal election.
That answered.
That just clarifies it
And it has to happen before the filing date, a certain amount of
Yeah.
days.
and have 2 years left. Yeah.
So theoretically,
Within the
Yes.
the
schedule.
mayor dies.
I didn't mean to say that.
Rest his soul.
They were
Rest his soul.
retiring.
I said, well, let me get
Southern
this.
Tier.
I'm not saying Brett's gonna die. I'm just saying a mayor dies, okay?
Future mayor.
We've had it.
So.
Mayor Adam dies.
Mayor Steve, okay, of Steveville, okay, he dies. The council can't get together for 24 hours. The city's without a mayor for 24 hours?
Correct.
Okay.
It is under this, yes.
Interesting.
That's fascinating.
It's
Yeah, a
so.
little little different.
Yeah, because, and I used to
Hopefully
guess
it's a
because
weekend.
retirement, you could plan accordingly.
I just want to clarify
Yeah.
something.
Right.
Technically, it's an emergency meeting, so if I could get them all in here by 5 o'clock that night, we don't necessarily need 24-hour notice for this.
I was just saying that.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm just
If
saying.
we're all busy,
And that was, that is what
Theoretically.
will happen.
like 3 of us
yes.
are out of town, it's July, 3 of us are out of town, and now.
Then
Just
just
wanted to clarify, it's an emergency, so we
call
don't.
to the council at that point, like for the next 24 hours or something?
No.
No. Well, it's a
The executive branch is running hog wild for 24 hours.
Could make a movie about it.
Right.
Which is what
Ross
makes
would
this
be
so
doing that.
so
Yeah.
odd. Council chair, that just happened.
Yeah.
We'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
That would make.
Yeah.
So it doesn't check, it only changes the mayor vacancy, not a council vacancy.
Correct. You don't have to choose acting council member and then choose that one.
That's weird.
That's what you have.
Well,
But
this is the
it was
day.
so smooth. I mean,
This is the day of the state
This
coming up with
makes
weird
no
laws that we have
sense.
to implement. CED.
And let's send him a thank you note.
I know, right? Okay, is everybody good with that? Okay, so with that, we're adjourned.
So if I die
All right, I'm going to call this council meeting of the Murray City Municipal Council to order. We have all council members present, as well as Mayor Hales, Jill Critchfield, Brooke Smith, and Jennifer Kennedy, our executive director. Our first matter of business is to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I have asked Leanne Parker-Reed to lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Leanne. All right, we will now move on to approval of council minutes for July 7th, 2026. Do I have any additions, changes, or corrections?
I didn't see any changes, but I will make a motion.
I will entertain a motion.
Approval of the minutes of July 7th, 2026.
I'll second.
Got a motion from Councilmember Cotter and a second from Councilmember Turner. All in favor, say aye. The vote is unanimous. We'll now open the floor to citizen comments. If you have general comments that you would like to make, you can come to the stand, come to the microphone, speak. You have 3 minutes. State your name and city of residence, and then fill out the form that Patty has. So any citizen comments are now open. Okay, seeing no citizen comments, I'm going to close that, and we're going to move on to the consent agenda. We have Mayor Hales presenting.
Thank you. We wanted to bring the names of, well, first of all, we were going to ask for a confirmation of my appointment for Kim. Kim, are you here? Kim Hathorn? There you are. There's Kim. And then to the Murray Library Board for a term from June 2026 through June 2029. Do you want them together or do you want them separate? Together, okay, okay. And then also the appointment of Trayson Lyon, Trayson, right there. Everyone knows Trayson. To the Murray Library Board for a term, same term, 2026 through 2029. So we'll present those names for confirmation.
Do I have any questions or comments from the council?
Nope.
Okay,
You want a motion?
I will entertain a motion.
All right. I will make a motion to confirm the mayor's appointment of Kim Hathorn and Trayson Lyon to the Murray Library Board for a term from June 26th through June 2029.
I second it.
I've got a motion from Councilmember Turner and a second from Councilmember Cotter. Brooke, will you call the roll?
Mr. Pickett,
Aye.
Ms. Cotter,
Aye.
Mr. Bolin,
Aye.
Ms. Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Hawk.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and thanks Kim and Trayson for being here.
Thank you. All right, with that, the vote passes 5-0. We'll now move on to our public hearing. So our first public hearing is to consider an ordinance amending section 17.171050 with 17.171080 and 17.171.100 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to provisions of the Murray City Center form-based code addressing street-facing entrances on multifamily units, required bicycle parking for multifamily developments, and minor modifications to approved site plans. Chad Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Council. This was a text amendment that we anticipated several, almost over a year ago when the form-based code was adopted. We understood that this was a brand new code, and we had a project that was already in the queue that was going to be reviewed under this brand new code, which is our Block 1 project being constructed by Rockworth. So we anticipated this. It actually was even included in the development agreement that there would potentially be items that we'd have to come back and revisit. So here we are. We had a chance to review the plans that were submitted by Rockworth, and we found a couple of things that came up during our review that we wanted to talk about with the council and request some changes because of those. Two of those items are things that were clerical items, I'll call them, and one was more substantive. So I'll talk about that item in just a minute. But the changes, the first one is related to our review process. This is one of those that staff just wanted to clarify. We had two processes in the former code iteration of the code that was adopted that seemed to be identical. We essentially had a process that said that if you had less than 10% of a change, it would be reviewed and approved by planning staff, and the next one said it would be reviewed and approved by CED staff. Those are the same people. So we wanted to clarify what was meant by this particular change or this particular ordinance was that we'd have degrees of change that required a different degree of review. Less than 10% was anticipated. That could be the planner reviewing the building permit would never come up to anyone else as they made their judgment call and said this is less than 10%. They could just approve that. The next change was meant to be more formal, and so we've changed that to reflect that. The proposed language is by written decision of the CED director. That CED director or designee, as always occurs in these codes, and then greater than that would still be reviewed by the Architectural Review Committee. I don't want to ask AI assistant. There we go. So that is just a very quick clerical change just to provide some clarity. Any questions on that first change? I'm going to try to go through these fairly quickly, these first two. Second change is a clerical error as well. This is a typo. We've looked back at the original review copies of the code. We've looked back at the source that this code was taken from, which was Midvale City's standard for bike parking in some of their mixed use zones. The current code that was adopted says 0.5 spaces per bedroom for bicycle parking. So it's the greater of either 4 spaces or 0.5 spaces per bedroom. What we looked back and found in the original review copies and the source material was that was supposed to be 0.05 spaces per bedroom or 4 spaces for the development for multifamily. And again, that's bicycle parking. We're not talking about vehicle parking or motor vehicle parking. We're talking about bicycle parking. So that is a requested change to align with what was originally proposed in the initial review copies and also the source for this code. Any questions on that particular provision? Yes.
I have a question. So how many units are they looking at on the Rockworth development? 140?
140, yeah.
140. And so 0.05 bike parking spaces, was that 7 units?
Per bedroom, I think it's about 9 is what it works out to be.
That's
9 or 10, yeah.
9 or 10, okay.
Now that's just for the residential component. They have a commercial component as well, and you can see below that has its own bicycle parking requirement. So that'll still be required as well.
And usually that's sufficient for that number of units?
Yeah, we did during the planning commission process, we did some additional research. We hit about middle of the communities in Salt Lake County that require bicycle parking. We feel like that's a good place to be. Not the most, but not the least.
Right. And that's just required. They could always add more if like everyone decides they're a biker.
I'm sorry.
I said that's just how much they have to put in, but they could always add more.
They can always add more. That's the minimum requirement. Yes, thank you. And the other piece of that is that it's also consistent with other mixed-use zones that we already have bicycle parking standards. We actually require a little bit more in this instance than other codes that we already have in our code, other mixed-use codes that require bicycle parking. Any other questions before I move on to the next item? So the last item that we're requesting a tweak to the code is related to entrances, front entrances. The code is adopted. It says that primary entrances for all building types shall be located along the front street facade. Now, there's some interpretation that goes along with that particular code section. The intent, of course, was that we didn't want to have buildings that turn their back to our front door to the street, right? We want to have active streets. So as we looked at that, I will say that Rockworth made a great effort at trying to implement that for each of the units. The interpretation was that applied to each of these residential units on the ground floor, that they would need to have an entrance out to the street. As we worked through that with them, what kept coming back is that in this particular instance, it wasn't the ideal. And the reason for that is that in this particular design, we have a secured parking garage where residents can park. We have secured entrances. Having individual entrances for each of those units we had some concerns about how those units could then be secured. So as we looked through that with them, we came up with some language in conjunction working with Rockworth that we're proposing to you. Now, the important thing here is that we still think that this is an important design feature. We don't want buildings to turn their back to the street. We want this to be an active, pedestrian-oriented design. So in order for this to happen, you have to meet certain criteria. So you can see A through D here. The only way this can be considered is if units are accessed from a secured interior corridor, which is the case with this development. They're connected to a structured parking facility. So this would not be something that would apply to townhomes. Townhomes would still need to have an active front entrance because they're not connected to a structured parking facility. The building type maintains an active pedestrian-oriented streetscape as outlined in this code. We have very specific standards for what that looks like in our form-based code. Notably, lots of windows, lots of good architectural feature, good landscape and plaza areas that are available. That all applies to this development as proposed. We feel like they've done a good job creating that active street front environment. There's, again, lots of windows, lots of opportunities, and also some private open space areas that create that sense of activity there. And then the primary entrance to any residential building still meets the entrance standards for the building type. So what that means in this case, with the residential buildings proposed by Rockworth, you have a building that comes, an L-shaped building that runs on 4800 South and on Hanauer. We have a corner entrance on that building that still meets the code. It meets the code for what that corner building type should be. So we have a good substantial primary entrance along with some other ancillary entrances on Hanauer and on 4800 South that still create that entrance onto a pub. So people aren't driving to the back of the development, coming in through that door only without any kind of activation on the street. They still come through a substantial public facing entrance that gives that sense of entry for that corner, which is required by our code. The other piece of this is we just wanted to make a clarification that there are some things that are in our state code. You can see that reference right there that have to do with amending or suspending rules that apply, architectural rules how they apply to single family and two family dwelling units. So that's, again,
Can I
that's a
ask
state
a
requirement. Well, I'll just finish this thought real quick and get right to it.
Yes,
So
on the number 19.
let me just finish the thought and I'll get right to your question. Just related to that again, that's a state requirement. We can't require certain architectural features on single and two family homes. Yes, Pam.
So from what I'm reading, primary entrance for all building types shall be located along the front street facade. That's State Street, correct?
No.
Where's the front facade?
That's defined in code. It's the street that the building fronts on. In this case, this building's on 4800 South and on Hanauer Street right here.
I have a related question. This only affects the residential portion of so this doesn't affect the commercial
This piece
development?
only affects the residential building type.
Okay,
So then
that's what I was asking about.
commercial still is required to have the outward facing entrances?
That's right.
But they won't have, the commercial part will not have a back entrance into those commercials, or will they have?
I think they have both, yeah.
They will have a front and a back entrance?
Yep.
Okay, of the commercial.
So we're not changing the commercial entrance.
Right, I just wanted, okay.
And so then this also won't affect, so if there's a development on Old City Hall property, this would apply to them as well, if it involves similar.
For residential portions, we would,
but it wouldn't affect the commercial on
Right,
anything in the form-based code.
previous project was commercial on State Street, which they would still have that same requirement, yeah.
And then these changes are for all the form districts, not just one form district?
They apply to all form districts. As you can see, that it still does require a administrative review and approval by the Architectural Review Committee. So there is still a level of review for these projects to make sure that they meet those 4 criteria.
I'm still confused about this, Chad.
I'm with you, Diane.
is there some way we could get a visual of how it's being changed?
So if you look at these buildings, this is the Rockworth building that's been proposed.
Right.
Rather than having an individual entrance for each of those units out onto the street, they'll share this entrance out on the street, but they'll still have substantial, you can see substantial architectural features, windows that activate that street frontage. They just won't have for each of those units an individual door out to the outside.
So let me see if I can clarify this correctly. On this drawing, the current codes would state that each of those windows would need to be a door to a apartment complex, and this would allow them to just have windows like it's designed and the main entrance on the corner. Is that
That's a good summary. They wouldn't be each of those windows. Not all of those are a distinct unit, but yeah, some of those windows would be replaced by doors. Yeah. And if anyone knows how to turn off that Ask AI assistant, maybe it's right there. There we go.
But
That
if
makes me
there's
happy.
no street parking on 48, why would you need that entrance?
Why would you need which entrance?
Why would you need that corner entrance if there's no parking on 48? Why would you need that entrance, and why wouldn't there be an entrance behind the building?
There is an entrance behind the building
But
as well.
why would you need that other one? Is it for
It's
fire
for pedestrians. You can see, this is one of those ways that we activate the street. You can see those pedestrians that want to go
Yeah.
in that door right there. So it's not a vehicle entrance, it's a pedestrian entrance. It's an important part of a form-based code, a downtown form-based code, to have really good accessible entrances from public sidewalks for pedestrians to get in and out. We would hope that not everybody's driving a car to this facility, that some people are just walking.
So there's this entrance. Is there another entrance besides that one? Is there one in the back? Is there
There-
another one on the corner?
Yeah, there's entrances from the rear as well. There's secured entrances. There's some over here on this east side of the building and on this south side of this building.
So there's 3 entrances or 4?
I don't think I have a site plan, but maybe you can just point on those. So Sarah can point out all the entrances. There's quite a
Okay.
few. Yep.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. Hopefully this helps clear things up. So as the code is currently written, it's about every other window here would need to be a door that is actively accessed by the street. Pam, to your point, there's actually no parking along here. And for security reasons, as this is drawn, it's a little hard to see, but we never actually intended for these doors to access this street. If you look really closely, there's little fences around them. So we'll still have doors out and we'll still have little patios. So those are individual units. It's still going to feel like a brownstone unit, but there's actually significant grade change on this site. So from the east to the west, if we are required to put a door at every unit that accesses the sidewalk, we would actually be impeding on the public sidewalk as this building is currently drawn. So what our thought is we actually don't get better leasing results when tenants have access out into the public because they're paying for a secured building, right? They're paying for secured parking, they're paying for their secured patio area. And so for us, we have entrances on nearly every corner. So you've got one kind of on this main corner. That'll also be our leasing lobby. And then I don't know if you guys recall, but there's kind of a pass-through corridor hallway so that everybody who's working here at the city hall can get through to the restaurants. There's doors in that corridor. There's also an elevator that goes down to that city parking lot right in that area. There's doors on the far end of the buildings as well. So there's multiple accesses to this building without having to have every unit have an access door. Does that help clear that up a little bit?
It does. It is helpful. I'm just trying to figure out, should we change the whole form-based code to meet this?
Yeah, I'll let you guys.
Chad, before you
think that's why-
Chad,
that's why
before you
we-
comment,
Yeah.
Sarah, can you state your full name for the record?
Sarah Namelka.
From Rockworth. So just real quick, we understand. We have the exact same concern. And so we've tried to make this very, very specific. That's not to say that if another development met these criteria that they couldn't do this, but we want to make sure that it's limited to those developments that we feel are still checking all those boxes from our form-based code. One residential use type that we've specifically left out of this, as we mentioned before, is townhome developments. We want those to still have those active front entrances. They're a different type of development, and it's important that we don't have them turn their back onto the street. But this one's not turning its back on the street. As Sarah's explained, lots of good public entrances still there for the public to access, and great architectural features that still give it that, great architectural and design features that still give it that form-based, when I say form-based code, it's that downtown, or, more of a pedestrian-oriented development.
Okay, that was my concern, so if you're okay with it, then guess it makes sense.
And I want to say one more time, this was a big effort. This was lots of back and forth. I don't know how many times back and forth, but trying to see if there was a way for this to work. We came to the conclusion as staff that this was a legitimate concern. She mentioned the grade issues, also the security issues, that if we could still put a fence around it and make sure that we had some regulations that said not everybody can just do this as a matter of course, that this is a good change.
Sarah, can you answer a question for me?
I'd be happy
Can
to.
you turn it back to the picture? So is the bottom level, the street level, is that going to be apartments, or is that going to, or whatever you want to call them, or is that going to be businesses? The
In-
bottom level?
Yes, in this rendering, the
Yes.
image that you see that's kind of the white brick level,
Right.
is that the level you're talking about?
Yes.
That is going to be mostly apartments. The corner here will be the leasing lobby.
Okay.
And Pam, maybe to answer your question from before, all of our retail will be double fronted retail, similar to Holiday Village. So all of the commercial that fronts State Street will have a primary entrance on State Street as well as an entrance behind. So I encourage you guys to visit Holiday Village. It'll feel very much like that if you walk
Yeah.
into Caputo's or Three Cups
Right,
or
I've been there. And
Yep.
so I didn't, when you said entrance, I'm going, so is that the entrance to go to the commercial part?
No,
Of
so
State
this
Street?
building actually does not attach to the commercial buildings except for it attaches just via the parking lot. The underground parking
Okay.
structure is only underneath this and the parking lot, but the retail buildings along State Street all stand alone, and they're a single floor of retail with office above. It's possible that retail could also go on the second level.
Have we seen that sketch? Okay.
Yes, you
Because
have.
I'm sure I've seen it, but just to refresh my memory again. So that's fine.
have it.
That's fine. I'm just curious why we have so many entrances, but now I understand it. It's for the apartment people and it's not for the retail people, right?
Yeah,
Got
correct.
it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Council, any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, so, excuse me, I will open it up for public comments. So if you'd like to state a comment on this issue, come to the microphone. You will have 3 minutes, state your name and city of residence, and then fill out the form that Patty has. All right, seeing no public comment, I will close the public hearing on this issue, and I will open it up to the council for further discussion. Okay, seeing no discussion, I will then entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we consider the approval of ordinance amending section 17.171.050, 17.171.080, and 17.171.100 of the Murray Municipal Code relating to the provisions of the Murray City Center form-based code addressing street faces entrances of multifamily units, require bicycle parking for multifamily developments, and minor modifications to approved site plans.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion for Councilmember Pickett and a second for Councilmember Turner. Brooke, will you call the roll?
Mr. Pickett?
Aye.
Ms. Cotter?
Aye.
Mr. Boland?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Hawk?
Aye. All right, the ordinance passes 5-0. And we will now move on to the second public hearing, which is to consider resolution adopting the 2026 Power Impact Fee Facilities Plan and the 2026 Impact Fee Analysis. And you'll probably present on the third one, I'm assuming too, which is to consider an ordinance amending 3.14110 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to power impact fees. So we have Greg Ballon with Andrew McKinnon and Keith Larson. Really just Keith is here from Bowen and Collins Associates.
Council Mayor, thanks for letting us be here tonight. Yes, we're here. Andrew's not here. I've got Keith Larson with the Bowen and Collins, and they've done a impact fee facility plan and analysis for us, and I'll just kind of let Keith go right into that. But anyway, we're excited to be to this point. So.
And I'll apologize for Andrew not being here. He's backpacking somewhere in the Uintas, got a last minute invitation and trusted me to come alone. So that's good. Let's see what we want to talk to you tonight about. I guess first for the public, let me just mention that we met together in a work session. We had a healthy conversation, talked through some of those details. So tonight, I'm just going to give you a quick summary of what that is, and then if you or the public have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. So if you look at the future of Murray and projected growth in power requirements, there is a significant increase projected. And that has a lot to do with both increased demands in individual businesses and homes, et cetera, but also future growth that will be coming. The question becomes, is this growth is going to need facilities in the power system. So how should growth fairly pay for their use of capacity in the system? Well, the state legislature has been working on this concept for about 30 years and has created code that requires a very specific way of calculating what that can be. And so it follows the following steps. The first step is that we identify level of service. And what that means is how much power do each of these customers need? And we look at historic numbers and define what that is. Then we say, okay, given that and the projected growth, what kind of infrastructure will be needed? And that can be looking at both existing facilities that you already have and new projects that are needed to serve that growth. And then the last thing is to allocate the capacity to growth. So we have a little circle here. This is power, but a pipe's a little easier to understand. If you had water flow in a pipe, you would look at what portion of that pipe is currently being used by existing customers, and then what will be used by 10-year growth and growth beyond 10 years. And the 10-year requirement is defined by code so that we're not looking way down the road, but just looking at over the next 10 years, what kind of capacity are they going to use? Once we do that, we can look at what is the value of that capacity that is going to be used to serve the future growth. And so that's what's on this next slide. Between all your assets, you have about $120 million worth of assets that have or will be built in the city of Murray. Of that 120 million, about 19 million will be used to serve future growth. And so what we do at that point is we look at the projected window, that's 10-year growth. We look in the projected window, we have about 16,000 kilowatts of projected demand. We divide the 19 million by the 16,000 kilowatts. We do a couple of adjustments that are required by the code, and that results in a maximum allowable impact fee of about $1,100 per kilowatt. So now we have the cost of what it costs to provide growth, the power within the city. Now, you obviously, a homeowner doesn't know how much kilowatts they need necessarily, but from historic records, we can look and see, okay, for a certain type and size of connection, this is how much power they're going to need during peak demand periods. And so for a residential single-phase connection of 200 amp service, that's your typical residential connection, they're using just over 3 kilowatts during the peak period of demand. So we take that 1,100, we multiply it by the 3 kilowatts, and we end up with a fee of approximately $3,300 or almost $3,400 per connection. So this is what a new development, new residential connection would pay to buy into the system and the capacity that they will be using in the Murray City system. And that increases slowly over the next 6 years in the schedule that we've identified. The same exists for commercial customers. The table is a couple pages long, and I think you'll see that full table in the ordinance, but we've just shown a few sizes here. But again, it's based on historic averages of what power will be demanded by each of those sizes of connections. So the last thing to talk about is what does that look like relative to where we are today and other communities, UAMP communities who provide power of this nature. Murray currently, as you can see, is significantly below the rest of the crowd here. If adopted to the maximum allowable amount, would be just above average. One of the questions that came up is why are we a little bit above average of some of those others? I think part of this is the process just of updating impact fees. I think some of those that are down a little bit lower haven't done this for a while and probably haven't captured recent increases in cost and inflation. So 3,300 is the maximum that can be adopted. The council is able to adopt a lesser amount if it is your pleasure. However, I would note that these costs are actual costs that will be incurred. Somebody has to pay for them. So if growth is not paying for their own portion, then that will need to come from existing residential rates to subsidize those costs. So our recommendation is to adopt the maximum allowable by law, which would be the 3,300 for a residential connection. So that's the quick summary, and I'll open for questions.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Simple enough. Okay, this is a public hearing. So we'll have two public hearings off of this. So the first public hearing is off the resolution to adopt the 2026 Power Impact Fee Facilities Plan and a 2026 Power Impact Fee Analysis. So if you have comments on that, come to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to express your thoughts. Okay. Seeing no comments, I will close the public hearing portion of this, and I will open it up to the council for further discussion.
I did have one question. Do we have other impact fees for other enterprise level services? Do we know what our aggregate impact fee would be if we add this maximum allowable of 3,000?
I was going to bring this up at the committee of the whole with, I'll just use the water impact fee is right around $3,000. So that kind of brings us into line with what the parks $5,000. So this is putting us right in line with everything else in the city right now. So we're just way behind over the years. And so we're just kind of catching up, but it's putting us right in line with what other impact fees are in the city.
And it's pretty typical for cities to have an impact fee for water,
yes,
for power, for parks,
sure. Yeah, because they've got to be able to recoup or be able to get that money that needs to be paid for infrastructure. So
we're not the only city that does it.
No.
Okay, all right. No other questions. I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for the resolution adopting the 2026 Power Impact Fee Facility Plan and the 2026 Power Impact Fee Analyst.
Okay, I've got a motion from Councilmember Cotter. Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion from Councilmember Cotter and a second from Councilmember Pickett. Brooke, will you call the roll?
Mr. Pickett?
Aye.
Ms. Cotter?
Aye.
Mr. Boland?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Hawk?
Aye. And so the resolution passes 5-0. We'll now move to an ordinance. And amending section 3.1410110 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to power impact fees. Gentlemen, do you have anything you'd like to add before I open the public hearing on the? Okay, then I will open it for, this is also a public hearing, so I will open it up to public hearing. If you'd like to comment on that, come to the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then fill out the form that Patty has. Okay, no public comment. So then we will close the public comment portion of this meeting, and I will send it to the council for further discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance amending section 3.14.110 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to power impact fees.
I second it.
Got a motion from Councilmember Bolin and a second from Councilmember Cotter. Brooke, will you call the roll?
Mr. Pickett?
Aye.
Ms. Cotter?
Aye.
Mr. Boland?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Hawk?
Aye. All right, the ordinance passes 5-0. Thank you. We'll now move to our business item, which is to consider an ordinance amending section 15.24.010 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to the adoption of the updated International Fire Code. Jeff Pulse, presenting.
Good to see you, Mayor and City Council, always. So thanks for letting me take this time to talk a little bit about fire code. So this is the request for the ordinance to update it to the current 2024 to meet with Utah standards. And this also includes the B, C, and D appendixes of that. So why do we do this? It's a set of regulations that we have, and it's just updated to meet current standards, new technologies, everything like that is what we have, and we just want to be on top of that. So what this will do is with the appendix B, this will deal with fire flow requirements, make sure we do have the water necessary to fight the fires, and it helps with the fire suppression. Appendix C is the fire hydrant locations. We definitely need those and the locations where they're at, and that helps us make sure that we get the proper hydrants with our fire flows. And the big one is Appendix D, and that is our fire department access. So this lets us get into the places that are really needs to, especially for the heights and as we build. And as you may have seen in surrounding areas, if there are fires, we want to be able to get our apparatus in there quickly. So what we want to do is keep Murray's fire and life safety standards current with this, consistent and effective in protecting our citizens and our firefighters. So that's a quick down and dirty of just updating this code. We already had the 2021, and as the state did it, we're just going to keep track with them. So do you have any questions of me? All right, you guys are great.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, then with no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion on the ordinance amending section 15.24.010 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to the adoption of the updated International Fire Code.
I'll second.
We've got a motion for Councilmember Cotter and a second from Councilmember Turner. Brooke, will you call the roll?
Mr. Pickett?
Aye.
Ms. Cotter?
Aye.
Mr. Boland?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Hawk?
Aye. With that, the ordinance passes 5-0. We will now go to the mayor's report. Mayor Hills.
Thank you, Adam. Have I mentioned about who we've hired for the theater? I did already mention that last. Oh, but not here. Okay. All right. I'll get a little more specific. Thank you, Pam, for letting me know. So I just wanted to share some of the progress we've had with the theater. Our new director, who I told you already, was Cody Swenson. And Cody, and I know I must have mentioned this in there, but Cody Swenson is the grandson of Ruth and Nathan Hale. He's exactly who we needed. I mean, the Hale Theater. So he is and I don't even usually mention this, and he doesn't, but he is the co-founder of the Hale Center Theater with his mother, Sally. Sally is the daughter of Ruth and Nathan Hale. So anyway, we just got lucky. It was just kind of one of those things like an Erica type thing where we got the right person. But anyway, Cody started about 3 weeks ago, and he is making major improvements. Again, he came from the Ruth down in Pleasant Grove, so he was down in Pleasant Grove. It's a brand new Hale Center Theater. They moved from Orem to Pleasant Grove. A member of the Hale family. This Saturday is Kiss Alive, a tribute to the rock band of Kiss, and we'll perform at the Murray Theater. Cody came to us recommended. He came in and this was probably the best music to my ears. He came in and he says, met with us, and we meet with him every week, and he said, I said, no, Cody, I only see about 125, and he was new. We obviously, it's not on him, but 125 seats for Kiss. You guys working on that? And I said, if we could get 200, I'd be thrilled. And he looked right at me and he goes, 200? I won't be thrilled till it's sold out. And we're at now double that, 250. In a matter of a week, we went from 125 to 250 seats. So there's another 80 seats available. We'll see if he gets sold out. But and he's also a technical guy. He does lighting, and he said, if you really want to see a great show, what he said to me, he says, Brett Mayer, when you come in, he says, we're expecting something big from Kiss. So, it's a certain group that like this. Music's got to be loud. And he says, everyone knows if you come to a Kiss concert, you're not getting Karen Carpenter. So you're going to get Kiss. And so he's got some amazing, we have the ability in our theater with some amazing lighting, technical. We just really didn't know how to use it. Well, Cody knows how to do it. So Cody is going to have that place lit up. And he said, if you want to see one of the best concerts you've seen in a long time, then come see this. Because he said, you're going to really enjoy it. So that's this Saturday, 7 o'clock, opens at 6:30. Also, and it's $30. Also, we are really, really lucky, blessed, whatever you want to call it. Harriet has decided to come back. And Pam, almost every seat is sold. It's only been 2 days. So look on there now. But she's come back. Cody also worked out a deal where, it's just amazing, 80-20. So we will make money on this concert. And if we're 80-20 on every concert, we will make money because the performers, if you're at 80-20, they want a sellout because that's how they're going to make their money. So I didn't think we'd ever get Harriet as an 80-20. Well, she is an 80-20 split with us. So, and I want to read what she put on her Instagram that has like about 500,000 followers, I think. She wrote Christmas, and so she's going to do Christmas, some Christmas music, Karen Carpenter Christmas. Christmas in Salt Lake City. I wrote her and said, it's Murray, Harriet. I said, bite your tongue on that, Salt Lake City. Anyway, she says, yes, please. We are returning to the Murray Theater for 2 shows on the 13th and 14th of November. Now, this is 2.5 months away, almost all sold out. So that's her advertising, and also Murray, Cody, whoever, what do you want to say, their efforts to make this happen. Murray has become a special place for me as it's where we performed my first ever U.S. show and found my team. Everyone was so welcoming to us. This city will always represent the beginning of an exciting chapter for me. I can't wait to get back there and see you all for the festive magic. Tickets on sale now. Like I said, that was posted 2 days ago. They're almost gone. So I think there's like 50, 60, 70 tickets each night is all left. So, and I believe she'll do an afternoon Saturday show if she sells everything out. So most likely she'll be doing a Saturday afternoon show. So anyway, just a lot of things are happening at the theater, and you know how I am, very impatient and want this to happen overnight. It's fun to see this coming together, and like I said, lucky to get Cody Swenson. He's just pulled it all together, knows what he's doing, and just doing it. Jeff said he's just fantastic. You probably know him. Did you know Cody a little bit from that kind of stuff? Yeah. So anyway, so that's great. Then you all got my announcement about Cody Chase being appointed as the new police. Oh my gosh, Cody, he's here, even here. Look at him back there. I could get arrested for that. Chase Smith. Sorry, Chase. Sorry about that. Chase, will you stand up? He's way in the back there. We wanted someone to look like Craig, so. So anyway, Cody, Chase. Sorry, gosh, I've been saying Cody. Chase, he's going to be. He knows he has to be confirmed, and it won't happen until October. But let me tell you, you'll learn a little bit more about Chase. I did not know much about Chase until the last 2 months, but he is an absolutely phenomenal young man. And if confirmed, and Cody, Chase, my goodness, sorry I've been saying Cody so much on this thing. Chase will be a great addition. I have already had probably 30 people get a hold of me and say, that's the best choice that I could have ever made. So Chase has been with us 13 years, as you know, almost 20 years in the field. So anyway, very well-known lieutenant, respected lieutenant here at Murray City. And I guess we won't say congratulations yet until you're confirmed, but thanks for saying yes. So that's Chase. If you want to say hi to him after, you can get to him. That's my report.
Thank you, Mayor Hales. And with that, we are adjourned.
Feel so.